Kwasi Kwarteng not going anywhere.
And I'm not going anywhere.
Kwasi Kwarteng staying 100%.
Absolutely 100%.
And Kwasi Kwarteng sacked. These are the interesting times. Hello all, my name's Matt Johnson and welcome to The Interesting Times, a show that likes to take a sideways swipe at politics right here in the UK. So, what a quiet week, eh? It started with Nicola Sturgeon appearing on Laura Kuenssberg's show last Sunday during the SNP conference, where she set out her plans for a second independence referendum and her thoughts on the political turmoil going on at Westminster. The interview itself is over 16 minutes long, but all everybody seems to remember is 4 seconds of it.
I detest the Tories and everything they stand for.
And the great British public seem to agree with Nicola on this one. The latest polls show the Conservatives heading for political annihilation at the next general election. In fact, we have some footage of the British public's thoughts on Nicola's turn of phrase.
I detest the Tories.
I detest the Tories.
I detest the Tories. I detest the Tories, and so does my wife.
While that was going on, we still had the fallout from the mini-budget. Now, when it comes to the mini-budget and the markets, there are certain levels of expertise. There's amateur, where one simple sentence is enough to bluff your way through most interviews.
Well, the Bank of England is responsible for setting mortgage rates. The Bank of England sets the interest rate.
The Bank of England is quite rightly operationally independent, and you will remember all the arguments over this about why it was better to have an independent interest rate setter.
Interest rates will go up further, won't they?
That's a decision for the Bank of England.
Interest rates are set independently by the Bank of England.
The Bank of England sets the interest rates.
They do indeed. A useful phrase, no matter the question. What's the government's plan?
The Bank of England does set the interest rate.
Should Liverpool switch to a 4-4-2 or stick with the sweeper system?
Well, the Bank of England sets interest rates.
And who sets the interest rates? Then there's the basic. A grasp on sound bites and a little understanding of money, especially other people's who are buying your lunch. So those are the people that want to blame the Bank of England. Then you have the experts, former IMF chief economist Kenneth Rogoff.
But the trouble is, the markets just don't know where things are going. They don't know what a credible plan is. They don't know what the game plan is.
Current IMF director Kristalina Georgieva.
The Bank of England action was appropriate.
Professor of Global Economic Governance at Oxford University, Nigeria Woods.
Yeah, the Bank of England's been put in an impossible position. So they're trying to do two contradictory things at once to deal with what is essentially a politically caused crisis.
And Gillian Tett at the Financial Times.
Jacob Rees-Mogg's been out this morning saying, well, it's mostly to do with interest rates.
Well, to use non-technical term, that's pretty much bollocks.
Great. Well, that's my one swear word for the video done if I want to keep those adverts in. But despite all this, Kwasi Kwarteng was defiant. And at the IMF in Washington on Thursday, he said, I'm not going anywhere. Liz Truss then said, babe, we need to talk. The last 38 days have been magical, like a
fairy tale.
But it was never going to work. We just wanted different things. You wanted to tank the economy and I wanted to keep my job. Farewell, my quasi kamikaze Chancellor. And no, you will always have a special spot on my backbenches. But he was only in the job for 38 days. 38 days. Not even enough time to get his name right. Shortly after this announcement on Kwasi's departure and the ending of parts of his mini-budget, Liz Truss held a press brief. Nice of her to wear black out of respect for the dying currency. Now, complaints were made after that it was too short, and she only took 4 questions, although 3 of them were basically the same one.
Can you explain to the public why you think you should remain as Prime Minister?
How come you get to stay?
Given everything that has happened, what credibility do you have to continue governing?
Start the car!
Thank you very much, everybody.
Prime Minister, aren't you going to say sorry?
So what hope for her now? Not much. She's been described as cardboard and wooden, and that's from the people that liked her. As for the others, get the bleep machine ready. We're going in. One Tory MP said, we are being offered the choice of a sandwich or a sandwich with extra shit. Andrew Marr went with a different tact, sweary spelling.
A lot of those people think, hold on a second, why would I go into this SHIT storm when I've got a perfectly nice life outside?
Another said, we are totally and royally Speaking of royals, I think even the King's had enough of her.
Oh, it's a great pleasure.
Anyway. No.
So, Kwasi's out, Jeremy Hunt's in. Of course, it was Kwasi Kwarteng. I just wish there was a good nickname for Jeremy Hunt. No, nothing comes to mind, although Miriam Margolyes had some choice words.
When I saw him there, I just said, "You've got a hell of a job, the best of luck." And what I really wanted to say, fuck you.
Oh, no. This episode's very sweary. So what happens next? Well, there are only 4 possible outcomes. 1, a general election. This, unfortunately, isn't going to happen. All the polls show the Tories would be wiped out. And who would the Russians give their money to then? Number 2, Liz Truss stays in power, which only makes sense if Liz Truss was actually in power. Her approval ratings are so bad that there is genuinely a video on YouTube called Liz versus Lettuce, put up by the Daily Star to find out who has the longer shelf life. And all the smart money seems to be on the lettuce. Number 3, Boris Johnson comes back. This isn't going to happen. No MPs want to work with him. His cabinet would be emptier than the festival of Brexit. So what then? Well, to misquote Sherlock Holmes, when you eliminate the rational, what you have left, no matter how ridiculous, must be Conservative Party policy. So, point number 4, a new semi-sort of interim didn't get voted for. Look what you could have won, leader. Step forward, Penny Mordaunt. Seen here, making it perfectly clear that she has seen Boris Johnson's penis. It's the same initials as the job Prime Minister. Meaning she's already more qualified than anyone else in the party, and presumably I'm going to be offered Minister for Justice for exactly the same reasons. So, if you've got a spare 20 quid lying around, stick it all on Penny Mordaunt being Prime Minister within a fortnight. What have you got to lose? Oh yeah, 20 quid. And that's it. No time to talk about gallbladder news, who, as the country was going to the dogs, decided to go with the important news of the day. Black Lives Matter doing something. And who better to have talking on topics of racial unity than Nigel Farage, who does indeed unite all of humanity in thinking he's a clueless blob of xenophobic bile in tweed. He gave his update on this story.
They're being misled by Black Lives Matter and a series of Marxist organisations, and they've lost any sense of moral compass. Martin Luther King's "I have a dream. I have a dream that..." Well, I can't do the accent.
All right. Hands up who had Nigel Farage quoting Dr. Martin Luther King on GB News on their 2022 UK political bingo card. Talking of the Conspiracy Channel, John Cleese has now joined them to talk about cancel culture. I guess that makes him the Minister for City Talks. No time to talk about the fact that the mystery surrounding the princes in the Tower may soon be resolved, as it appears King Charles is in favour of the bones at the Tower of London being DNA tested. If it turns out they are princes, then they will be given a decent burial at the Tower. However, if they are merely commoners, then the DWP will declare them fit to work. No time to talk about Suella Braverman being welcomed into a new role as Home Secretary by the Shadow Home Secretary in the same way that a spider welcomes a fly. A fly that wants to stop all protest by other flies and has a dream to send some other flies to Rwanda. It didn't go well for Suella.
Welcome the Home Secretary to her first full debate. We've had a series of major public disagreements between the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister on restoring a net migration target, and then not, on leaving the ECHR, and then not, on reclassifying drugs, and then not, on seasonal agricultural workers, still unresolved, on claiming the Prime Minister didn't see small boats as a priority, didn't want her to talk about Rwanda. And if they aren't capable of getting their act together and being a government focused on this, they should get out of the way and give way to somebody else who can.
Oh dear. Suella was so publicly owned that Nadine Dorries is looking to sell her off. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these vids, then please don't forget to subscribe and hit all the notifications bell so you don't miss another. And I'll see you all next Sunday. Take care.